In this lesson, we're going to go over how to fix the pull of a spherical object when it's smoothed. Alright, so if we take a look at our objects here, first I want to talk about the shader that I have on here. This is just a basic Maya blend shader. And the reason that I have this on here is because of this highlight. When you have the default Lambert set on all of your objects that you're building, and every new object that you build in Maya, of course, is going to get that default Lambert shader. But the Lambert doesn't have a specular highlight on it, and this specular highlight can really tell us a lot about the model that we're building. So for example, if I take this, we just have half of a sphere, and I'm going to hit the 3 key to smooth it. All looks good from this angle. However, when I start to rotate, you can see that we get some weird shading right on the pole, right on the top where all of these edges converge into one point. So we get a little bit of a weird kind of star pattern on here. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, we have what's called a high valence vertex, and that's this vert right here. We have a lot of edges going into there. And two, it's because we have a bunch of triangles in here that may be a scenario that you have to fix anyway. Your production pipeline might not be able to handle any triangles in it, so we would have to make quads out of these anyway. So let's talk about a few different methods that we can use here. And I'm going to go ahead and dupe this. So we'll pull it over to there. Now, one of the ways that we can fix this is we can go up here and we can delete every other edge on this. So very important that when you build objects, you always use even numbers, always. So for a sphere like this, you don't do 17 sections. You always do 18 or 16, something in that nature. And it's really for stuff like this. It just really helps out if you always have an even number on everything. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. And you can see what we have here. We've taken these triangles, and by deleting that edge, we've actually created quads out of these. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. So we have a quad through all of those. Now let's go ahead and hit the 3 key, and you can kind of see we're getting this weird pattern through here where it bows out this vert right here when it smooths it. And so let's see what this looks like. And you can see that we still have a lot of that weird pattern when we rotate through here. So again, you can kind of see how important it is to have that highlight in there, because you can really troubleshoot a lot of stuff in your mesh just by looking at that. Alright, so that didn't work completely for us. Now another method that we could do is something like this, where we don't have a pole at all in there. So let's go ahead and take this one and we'll dupe it, and we'll just move it over here so we can work on it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my top view, and you can see in this instance that it's a little hard to see what we're doing with that highlight on there. So sometimes you're going to want to put a Lambert back on here if this highlight actually gets in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to try 2 different methods here. So let's take this and dupe it. So this first one, I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these edges in the middle, and we'll do a Control Delete to delete all of those edges and the vertices that are associated with them. Now I'm going to grab my multi-cut tool, that's under Mesh Tools, multi-cut tool, and I'm going to go ahead and split this right down the middle. And I'm going to split it down the middle again. So we still have n-gons, but we're starting to split these up. So I'm going to continue through here, and we'll do 1 on each side. And then we're left with 5 here. So one of these is going to have an extra split. We'll do those ones. So we have a fairly decent configuration now, and what you would want to do at this point is kind of scale some of these out a little bit and get just a little bit better pattern in there, something like that. But you know, ultimately we're not going to be able to get anything that follows this surface perfectly, and we're going to have another problem with this as well, so that's why I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this one. And the problem that we have is when I go and I smooth this now, see we have kind of a flat spot there. And that was because we deleted all of those edges, and so anything that was rounded then became one flat face. So what we can do is we can go to this one where it's still rounded, and we can attempt to do the same thing. We'll see what it comes up with. I'll go ahead and grab my multi-cut tool again. And we already have these ones on center. We just need these ones. So there's that, and then we'll go from these. So we're basically going to get the same configuration that we had before, but we're going to let this shape help us out a little bit. Now what we have here is we have a lot of extra edges in here that we need to get rid of. And some of these are going to go straight through, that's fine, we'll just deselect those ones. We don't want our centers, and actually we didn't want that one anyway. Alright, almost done. There you go. Now we don't want to delete these, we want to keep those in there. But we're going to get rid of all the extra stuff. So I will hit Control Delete to get rid of those. And you can see that helped out a little bit because we do still have this configuration up here. And we'll hit 3. And you see that got us a little bit closer. It's still a little bit strange up there. So this, once again, is something that we're going to have to deal with. And so if you're forced to have this much geometry in here, and I think we have the default of 20 in this case, then this is a fairly good route to go. I think we're getting the least of the problems with this one. Now, a much better scenario is we reduce the amount of geometry to something like this, where we have 8 sides. Now this one, if I hit the 3 key, you can see that we do still have just a little bit of weird light up there as it runs through there. It's still flickering just a little bit, and that again is because we have triangles up there. Let's take this and we'll dupe it. And now this time, let's do what we talked about at the very beginning, where we grab every other edge and we delete those. And now we smooth that, and you can see we get a really smooth result out of that one. So using a lot less geometry is much more effective, and if I zoom out you can really see some of these problems that we're getting here. In each one of these you can see those, but a lot less in this one. So ultimately this is the best case scenario for working with poles on a spherical object like this. So if you can reduce the amount of geometry that you have, the amount of sections that you have around the pole, this one is going to work out much better for you. Alright, so there's a look at how we can deal with the weird shading and pinching that happens on the pole section of spherical objects. See you in the next lesson.